2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brandon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy. The best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
Video gaming is causing conflict in my marriage. What now?
What's up, you guys? Welcome to the Therapy Brothers podcast. I'm Brandon.
I'm Tyler. We're brothers.
We're therapists.
We're not afraid of your questions.
So bring it. All right. Quick review before we answer that question. I know everybody's eager to get to the answer to that question. But the review says, I've learned so much from you personally and professionally. Thank you for your brilliant work. It is so, so important.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for the review.
Love kind words. So, and we share reviews because, one, it just shows that people are actually listening and care. But I mean, to be honest, Tyler, we share reviews because we want more reviews. So, yeah. We would appreciate some more reviews. You can go over to iTunes. That's the best place for us to get reviews. If you just want to send us a message, you can go to our therapybrothers.com and shoot us a little message, and we might read it on the podcast. But don't be shy. We would love some more reviews. So
awesome. Well, Brandon, I'm a little bit hesitant to get into our topic today because I know I'm going to rake over the coals a little bit, but
I've been waiting for this. Yes. This is great.
I'm gonna read the question first, and then you can pick on me for the next 45 minutes. How does that?
That sounds great to me.
Okay. All right. Let's get into the question here. This is a question that says, I am triggered by my husband's video gaming. He denies it's an addiction, yet in our 15 years of marriage, unless he's totally abstinent, he's been unable to control it. I see that it creates many of the same effects of his porn addiction in our marriage, with the lack of connection, empathy, consideration, and fulfilling responsibilities. It also perpetuates the same character defects in him, mainly avoidance and discomfort, the inability to self-regulate, lack of integrity, and it hinders emotional development and productivity. He asserts that it's a part of who he is, and it would be a form of self-betrayal if he gave them up at my insistence. And yet I feel like he chooses to overindulge in them, drags the kids into it, breaks the house rules and limits we've agreed on, undermining my authority as a parent and setting a bad example for them. When he hides the fact that he's playing them instead of working, or even openly declares that he will stop playing them despite my pleadings, despite my expressing how his video game playing undermines my trust and love for him. When he chooses video games over me, I end up feeling betrayed all over again. He says my reaction to his gaming is the problem, and it drives his desire to play. He insists that the only way to develop a healthy relationship with video games is to not feel restricted or ashamed, and then he'll automatically only want them in healthy amounts, which logically makes sense, but we vastly disagree in our definition of what's healthy. I just don't see why he has to have a relationship with them at all when they're so unnecessary and when it causes so much conflict in our marriage and distress. Am I wrong to be distressed? Is it my problem with them that's causing the problem? Is his assertion that it's just who he is a valid argument? What is a healthy amount of video games for an addict? And lastly, is it unfair for me to set video game boundaries around the gaming? What would a good boundary look like?
First off, that question was very well thought through. And you can tell that this person has done some work, that they're not coming to this totally blind. They're wanting some answers. But even though they may have done some of their own work, they're stuck with this thing, and they don't know what to do about it. So excellent question. There's a lot of questions within that question.
Yeah.
So Tyler, have you ever heard about video games being a problem in a marriage?
I've Brandon, this one hits pretty close to home. Maybe I'm just going to come out with it. So
why don't you share your little story?
All right. All right. Growing up, we didn't play a whole bunch of video games. We had like maybe a little later on, we ended up with like the old Nintendo and played a lot of Mario Kart.
I used to kick your butt at Mario Kart.
Tecmo Bowl. Games and
yeah, you'd beat me once in a while at Tecmo, but not often.
I remember winning more in Tecmo, and maybe you won a little more in Mario Kart. But
no, I don't recall that.
But the gaming issue for me really started when I was in college. I just barely gotten home from an LDS mission. I was freshly married, probably maybe a year or two into marriage, and I started playing a video game called StarCraft. And I'm sure all the old guys like listening to this right now are gonna be like, "Oh man, I remember StarCraft." Well, I got hooked on StarCraft. And I was like playing StarCraft. I'd skip school to play StarCraft. I used to work at UPS in the mornings, like throwing boxes, and I'd go to UPS from like 10 at night till 2 in the morning. And then instead of going home to my wife, I'd head back to the computer that I was playing StarCraft on. I played StarCraft for 2 or 3 hours, and then I'd go home and sleep for an hour or two and then go to school. And every time.
Tyler, here's the thing. Like as your brother, I was watching this happen, and our other brother, and we were just like laughing at you. We were like, well, you're freaking nuts. Like, for one, you use these cheat codes to dominate the game, but you were cheating anyways.
I still remember the codes,
which is concerning. But I mean, you've always had a bit of an addictive personality. And I remember that time of your life. It was high stress. You were stressed about money. You were newly married, so you're figuring that out. And you were applying to grad school. And I remember all of those things culminating. And you haven't been Mr. Gamer Man. You haven't been like, hey, like, let's play video games all the time. So you went from like 0 to 100. And it was some of the stuff we saw, like 3 a.m, showing up at mom and dad's house to play this video game until 5 a.m. while your wife's at home sleeping. Me and Rex were thinking, what in the world is happening here? So let's make fun of him about it.
You guys give me a lot of heat for it.
This is long before I was even considering being a therapist. But this lasted not that long, right? I mean,
yeah, I'd say it was a few months. It was kind of in the transition. I was just finishing my bachelor's degree, and I was getting ready to get into grad school. I was applying and interviewing, and worried that if I didn't get into a master's program, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And I had a new baby coming at home, and there was a lot of stress. And I definitely, during that time, it was truly the type of thing that I was numbing out. And the reason for the cheat codes and things was because I felt like I was so worried about losing everything in my life that I had to win somewhere. And that's
listen to what that's giving to you.
Yeah.
This fake game.
Yep.
Yeah. But what you're saying is it really did work to help you escape everything
Yes.
and to feel a false sense of accomplishment and winning. And so you had dopamine flowing through your
Yep.
veins. And you can understand the addictive nature of that.
Totally, 100%. And it felt good. It's what I would think about when I wasn't doing it, because I wanted to get out of the stress of the life that I was currently living, and I wasn't coping in healthy ways. It truly was basically the beginnings of what would have been a really bad addiction if things didn't change.
Right.
And
And how'd they change
they
for
changed.
you?
They changed when I went, basically when I got into graduate school, and thanks probably to some of your ridicule and shaming, maybe. But but it got
The only time shaming someone has ever worked.
well, it was the kind of thing where it was like the reality of it hit when I was thinking to myself, I'm complaining about being tired all the time, and yet I'm not sleeping because I'm playing video games. And now I'm going to be able to function in school, and I'm not going to be able to manage my life. And, of course, my wife was kind of obviously going, geez, like, what the heck is going on? And it came down to it. I actually had to make some choices. And to this day, for me personally, I only play video games when I'm with somebody else in person, and I don't put video games on my phone. I don't do any of that because I know the nature of what those things do for me, and I know it's not healthy for me. So,
so Tyler, here's the difference is, okay, you actually had some self-determination and self-reflection to say, look, this is not going to work for me. This is not good for me. I've fallen into this. I'm going to put some limits around this. I'm going to actually follow through with those limits. It's a little bit different than having a spouse who is very much indulging and very much wanting to indulge and not wanting to stop and not wanting to see it as a problem. And I think too, to add to this, your experience is interesting because really we didn't play a ton of video games like you say. Then all of a sudden you were playing a ton of video games.
Yes.
So you could look at this and say like, whoa, something shifted here. This is not me. Whereas you take a guy who's played a ton of video games from the time he was 10, 11 years old, and he's used to that. And that's what he does to numb out. That's what he does to escape all the time. He gets married, that doesn't just turn off.
No, that's a habit.
And it's more ingrained of like, this is normal. What's so wrong with this?
Right.
Yet we're hearing this question, and you can hear the friction there in a relationship, right? So what do you do as the spouse to start to address it?
That's a really good question, Brandon. I actually want to maybe back up a little bit before we get into that and just talk a little bit about understanding the landscape of video games. And again, I know this episode's going to end up sounding like a lot of people, like we're going to tee off on video games. And by all means, I love them. Like, obviously, right? I love them so much that I know I can't handle them. But let's think about what's actually happening with video games and the way that they're developed.
I do want to say though, Tyler, one of our favorite things to do is this is going to sound so nerdy. We get our wives together, and the four of us, and we have like a Dr. Mario tournament. We play Dr. Mario with each other, and we chat, and we kind of just have a good time and hang out. And we fully enjoy it. And to me, I don't see anything wrong with it at all, right? We're playing a video game.
We literally, Brandon, you and I literally sat with our wives, just the four of us, and played Dr. Mario all the way until New Year's this year for like 4 hours together.
Yes. And it was an awesome New Year's.
It was a great
right? Yeah. It was really fun. So yeah, we love video games. And they're not bad. However, go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, however, you've got to consider what they're actually designed for and how they're designed. And if you go and you look at anyone who's developing video games, and I'm sure we might even get some comments back on this, hopefully by people who develop them, just like any other business, we want people to spend time in our business. And the way that we do that is that we create something that's really appealing. And the things that are created in video games is that they're purposely designed to allow us to escape into a fantasy world where we can have some feeling of accomplishment. There's this token thing that happens when we reach a new level, or we beat something else, or we gain a new tool or something. That there's a dopamine hit that happens every time, but then we get to escape into a world that is different than the world we're living in. And in doing so, there's relief there. There's all that dopamine rush you're talking about, but it's designed by nature to be addictive.
Tyler, I want to ask you this. Why do you think more men get sucked in to video games than women?
That's a really good question, Brandon. I'm sure we could probably go find some studies and things on this, but I know just looking at the types of games that come out too, I actually think that more often video games are geared towards men, and this could get into a whole talk on masculinity too. But
yeah, go ahead. Well, and that's what you just said is like, it just shows how mundane and locked in a cage men are in so many ways. And so the video game designers, they understand what we talk about all the time, which is that men are designed for adventure. And men don't feel masculine for a battle and for strategy, for all of those things. And so you can stick that right on a screen, put it in front of a man who sits at a job all day long and feels like he doesn't have much purpose in his life, and life's boring. And to a wife, it's like, how can he choose playing that video game over me or over us? Well, his natural instinct, his dopamine is saying, you need to feel that sense of aliveness. You get that sense of aliveness there because you're not getting it in your life. And that's not a knock on a wife or having a family, because the feelings of having a wife and a family are different than the feeling of winning a war.
Right. Exactly. Even if you have to cheat with cheat codes, right? Like right. I could go and in some place in my life, I could feel like I was going to win, and I could have that excitement. And the crazy thing about video games is at the same time that we feel like we're pursuing battle and adventure, what it's really doing to us is it's numbing us out and pulling us away from the real world.
Yes.
And it's hard. Like, think about binge watching Netflix or something else. Like, once you start that first episode of The Office, how many times have you sat down and watched one episode of The Office?
Right.
Nobody does that. Everyone sits down and watches 4 episodes of The Office because it just rolls into the next one. And once you're in that numbing state, it's really hard to pull out of that numbing state. And so it's kind of hard, like when people say, well, I'm just going to sit down for an hour of video games and then do my homework.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do the video games first and then get into homework. It's way better off to do the homework first, because the video games are designed to numb you out and keep you there.
Yes.
That's what they want you to do.
It's so fascinating, Tyler. And with porn and video games, there's something that's happened with this information age that we live in that you can take your pick. So you can choose what will fill that void for you. So if you have a void of I lack adventure, or I lack a battle, or whatever it is, there's so many options of the type of video game or the type of porn. So it feeds that fantasy just perfectly.
Yep.
And what that does is it just makes you so escape everything, because you're getting what you feel like you need. The problem with porn and with video gaming is that when you do that and you indulge in that and you do it over and over again, after you do that, how do you feel?
Yeah, you feel like you haven't been, effective. There's usually other things on your plate that you should have done.
There's shame, always. There's conflict.
If you're intentional, like I said, I don't see anything wrong with the fact that we called each other up and said, "Hey."
But that's not what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. Sure, you can play intentionally video games and it feels good. And just like you can have sex in healthy ways as well, right? And enjoy sexuality. But the point I'm making is when it's not intentional, when you are indulging, overindulging, you're consuming, and you're just trying to use that to feel okay in your life. At the end of that, what's the outcome?
It's it's numbness, it's emptiness, it's shame, it's loss of confidence, it's feeling of more pressure because there's now more on my plate.
Yeah.
And
It's disconnection.
I look at this question that we're looking at right now, and that's what's really going on in this situation here is that there is, I mean, I'm just going to read parts of this. And if this is all true, you know, I'd love to hear from her husband too, but if this is all true, it perpetuates the same character defects in him: discomfort, the inability to self-regulate, lack of integrity, pulling the kids into it, overindulging, being dishonest. He's basically not involved in stuff around the house, home duties, things like that. Like if we were to take all of those things and say, if all those things are true, and if we were to look at like the classic, like definition of addiction, and the addiction is the use of a substance or activity to the point that the duration or rate increases and it has a negative impact on my life and I can't seem to stop.
Yeah.
Do you hear that? I mean, that's exactly what an addiction is.
Well, and let's say this guy's listening. He can take that one of two ways, and this is really important. If there is an addiction there and he doesn't want to change it, then what he's going to do is he's going to turn on his wife and say, you're the one that sees this wrong. You're over the top. You're crazy. This is not happening. Or if he does actually want to work on an addiction, if the video games are addicting, like Tyler just said, your wife is actually giving you good feedback. She's reflecting back something. If any of those things are true that she listed off, then you can listen to that and say, you know what, maybe I need to address this. Maybe I need to look at it. It's not that she's crazy or over the top. Think about what she's underneath all of it. What is she asking for?
She's basically saying, like, I want my partner to be involved with me. I want him to be engaged. I want to be connected. I want connection. That's all this whole question basically says video games seem to be taking away connection.
Yeah. And I want love. I want him. Yeah. I want love and connection with him. And dang it, this video game thing is right in between us.
Yeah. I want you to address this part of the question, Brandon. I want to see what your take is on this. Okay. He says, my reaction to his video gaming is the problem and it drives his desire to play. He insists that the only way to develop a healthy relationship with video games is to not feel restricted or ashamed, and then he'll automatically not want them as much.
That I'm glad you asked me that part, because I might have a little bit different answer than you. I do agree with him to an extent in that I don't think using force and control to stop the video games is going to help him actually stop it. So, and her trying to force him and control him won't get him to stop it. Either he'll take it underground, or he'll give her the finger and keep doing it anyways. So I don't think force and control is the way, or even judgment and shame. I don't think that. So for him to be able to say to himself, I really do desire to play video games. I've loved video games for a long time. They've been an important part of my life. I think the acceptance of that is actually important. And here's dialectic: acceptance and change. I can accept that's true for me with video games. I love the way they make me feel. I feel connected to my kids when I do it. It feels like a part of who I am. Right. I would challenge him to say, maybe you're missing the boat a little bit. Maybe it's not the video games that are a part of who you are. Maybe it's that deep down masculinity that the video games are touching on, like we were just touching about. Right. Mm-hmm. And, you know, do you have to use video games in order to feel alive? And can you, and here's another thing I'll do with addicts. Like I remember I was working with an alcoholic, and she's like, I'm not an alcoholic. And she had like 4 DUIs or something and was drinking every day. And I said, okay, if you're not an alcoholic, then we're scheduled in a week. Come in next week not having drank. If you do drink in this week, then you might consider that you're an alcoholic. And she's like, you're on. Like, okay, I'll come in next week. I will not have had a drink. And so I was like, okay. And guess what happened, Tyler?
No, she came in and probably had another DUI.
No, I never saw her again. She never showed up. But so here's the point is, if video games are just a part of who you are and there's something that you enjoy and it's not an addiction, then really test that and try to get honest with yourself. Really look at a step one when it comes to video games. Are you powerless over that thing? And if you are powerless over it, is that really something that you desire in your life? Or are you just fighting for your addiction?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
right.
What do you think, Tyler?
I agree with you 100% on that final part of what you said. I would challenge this family here, if they're listening to the podcast, to say, hey, take a month away from video games and not only stay away from them for a month, but pay attention to what you actually feel physiologically and emotionally. And if you're craving it, if you're shaking, if you're getting irritable and you're like snapping at your kids,
you're having withdrawals from video games.
You might have more of a problem than you think you do. And maybe you've been doing it for so long that you've just kind of cooked yourself into thinking this is normal.
Now, Tyler, I want to play devil's advocate. Can I?
Go for it.
Because I want to hear your take on this. I met with someone recently where she came from a lot of trauma of abandonment. She had betrayal trauma from years ago in her marriage. And her husband outlined his video game use, and it was really minimal. And it was similar to yours, actually. It was like, I'll only play with my kids. And she's like so triggered by him wanting to play video games, because she feels like if he plays video games, it's going to go down the road of his porn addiction, which was raging about 6 years ago. And he's going to abandon me. He's going to choose the video games over me. So like, I don't play video games. And then she even positioned it with, you love the video games more than me. You know how much this affects me. Why would you play video games? You like that? I guess you don't love me. And so it puts him in this position of like, in his honest truth, he enjoys connecting with his kids and playing video games in that way. His wife's really, really triggered. He doesn't want to tell her she's crazy, but he also doesn't want to comply and resent her. Mm-hmm. Right. So if you're that guy, what do you do?
Well, let's just start with the premise that guy actually does have good boundaries around the video games, which is, I would say, more the exception than the rule.
Yeah, that's true.
But okay.
Well, and she even questions that. He says that. She says something different. And so what's the truth?
Sure.
Is it fair? Yeah.
Let's say he
does.
Let's say the scenario we're talking about is that he says and feels like it's okay, and he actually sticks to it and says, I'm going to play video games with the kids for an hour a day. And that's what we do. And after an hour, we shut it off. And then she's giving you that response that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Here's another both and, Brannon. First, if I'm that husband, it's like, I see how hard this is on you. I know this is tough. I realize that a lot of this isn't just about the games today. It's about stuff from the past. And for my part of the past, I'm sorry. I want you to understand that I see your pain. And I think this is okay.
So hang on. So instead of getting defensive because you feel like she's trying to control, actually get empathetic and understanding about her pain and her fear first.
Yes.
Before you get defensive.
Step into that with her first, and then being able to have a little bit of pushback with that. That's the end. It's like, and I think this is something that is actually really valuable for me and the kids. This is something that's pretty important to me. I'm not using it in an addictive way at all. An hour a day isn't gonna. It's not killing anything, and I still have plenty of time to spend with you and do my duties around the house, and it's not affecting all those other things. So I'm here. I'm willing to listen. I do see what you're feeling, and I hope that you can understand the other side of this. And
I think, Tyler, the most important thing of there's a lot of important things you're doing. The empathy piece, the honesty piece, But I think one of the most important pieces of this for this couple in this made up scenario we're talking about is his actual integrity. Is if you say those things and you are honest about your use of the video games, don't hide things, don't go way overindulge, don't, because then your wife's thinking, okay, you're telling me this, but you're full of crap and I don't trust you. Versus, I trust you, it's true, you do manage yourself well, and so like, okay, it triggers me that you use video games, but I trust you. When there's not that trust there, that's where she's triggered into control. That's where he's triggered into shame and not wanting to be controlled, and it causes all this drama in the relationship. So,
right. I want to come back to the question I asked you, and I do want to add a little piece to it. I think you did a really good job of giving that dialectic on the both end here. If that's actually happening, there still is some definite denial in that. There's already an inherent blame going to the wife that says the reason I want to play them more is because you say I can't. Like, dude, take some ownership. Like,
I totally agree.
That's an easy cop out.
That's the defensiveness.
That's total defensiveness. Yeah. And this idea, like you hit it right, that shame is never the way to motivate, but pinning your shame on somebody else or saying that when you feel restricted is the reason why you need to do it more. I get where that's coming from, but that's also kind of an immature way of looking at it.
Tyler, could you imagine if this guy came into one of our groups and said, yeah, I play a lot of video games because my wife makes me because she doesn't want me to play video games. What would we do in our groups?
I would just turn it over to my groups, and the rest of the guys in group would be like,
they take care of it. Right?
Like, come on, dude. Like, you're in denial. Like, yes. own your own choices,
take accountability,
make your own decisions, Yes. And so on that side of it, there is a little bit of blame there. And the underpinnings are, yes, we don't want to shame ourselves into trying to change because we know shame doesn't work. Feeling restricted sometimes, that forbidden fruit type of thing sort of feels tempting to us. At the end of the day, it's still our choice. And what you were getting to, Brandon, and this is the point, is that right now this couple is arguing. They don't actually agree. He doesn't see that he's got a problem.
Right.
He's saying there is a problem, and she's looking here with really good questions, saying, do I need to back off, or like, what do I do about this? And
Tyler, it's hard for us to know because we're not talking to her right now and really fleshing it out. But from the way that question was written and all the things she listed and the angles that she's looking at and the evidence that she sees, it does seem like she's frustrated because there's a level of disconnection going on in the marriage because there is denial there wedging between them. Yeah. And when there's that denial there, it's really, really impossible to actually, they could take this issue and get to some intimacy and connection. Like she could talk about with him, if he were to open up vulnerably about him wanting more adventure and excitement in his life, or she could talk about her fears and her pains, and they could connect on a deep level because of this friction. But you're not going to connect if what Tyler's sniffing out is there, which is denial. That's not going to happen.
Right. I'm thinking of, this is something that hit me really hard, like when I was in my own stuff and I kind of like had the reality start to hit. And I know this, I'm not going to say this to make it a shaming thing because it was actually very powerful for me. And it happened a couple of times in my life. And I think what you're getting at here, Brandon, is that video games can very easily become the counterfeit of actual real life. We just disappear into an alternative world, and then we miss out on the life in front of us. And inside this question, that's what it feels like is happening is we have a man here who might be wounded, who might be in some habits, who might feel so attached to these things because they probably helped him cope with life through most of his life, that now he's feeling threatened and being told to be giving up something that he truly feels like he loves. But for me, when I realized this, I had a wife and a kid at home who I was letting that time pass me by. And the time I was with them, I was tired or preoccupied with wanting to get back on those video games. And a scripture came to mind, and it's like, when I was a child, I thought as a child and I spake as a child. But when I became a man, I put away the childish things. And in many ways, what that means is that I get to step back into my real manhood by looking around me with the life that I've got and saying, okay, let's not even say video games are bad. But if I had to choose a good, better, best version of my life, how much of my ideal life as the man that I want to be would involve disappearing into another world with video games?
Right.
And I would guess that in this situation, the answer would be, if I'm honest with myself, I'd be playing far less video games. In fact, there may not even be a reason for video games if my design life was to step into a life where I'm leading my family, where I'm connecting with my wife and my children, and I'm able to kind of see myself and live life on its terms.
But Tyler, it's not, and this is getting to some deeper levels here, is, I think a lot of men feel like, to be a good man, I gotta provide and connect to my wife and take care of my kids. And I know this might sound bad, but that's
true.
That's not enough for a man.
You're right.
It's not enough. And I've been on a little rowboat with you 20 feet from a whale that's feeding, like 3 whales feeding, like they almost swallowed our boat.
That was awesome. You wouldn't let me get closer.
No, you wanted to go on top of them. It was nuts. I've ridden a horse straight up a mountain a few months back. It was like I fell off the horse. It was crazy. I'm not sharing these things to say like I'm awesome, but I intentionally have those things built into my life so that then I can show up on those mundane days and I can love just being connected to my kids and my wife. But I know that I have that there. My job is a battle to fight. It might every day. And it, you don't have to be a therapist, but if you don't have a battle, then you're going to look for that battle on Street Fighter 2 or what old school games. I should do
these
games,
are all the old
right?
games.
But yeah, you see what I'm saying, right? It's really addressing this issue. If you really get to the depths of it, it's far, far more than just, put the controller down and stop playing video games.
Yeah, it's get into your heart. Like, what do you need, as in this case, as a man or as a husband, to not just be a man of duty? Yes, you want to do that. We all want to do that. That's part of us. But to actually feel alive, and to actually go and experience your own life feeling alive, instead of signing on to your account with a ripped body and a 6-pack, and while you sit and drink Mountain Dew.
Right. I'm laughing, but here's the thing. I don't think there's anything I'm more passionate about than a man finding his heart again and feeling alive. God needs men, not children. God needs men who are amazing fathers and husbands, but men who also know what their call is, are adventurous and actually step into it. And so, yeah, you can break free from it. You don't have to live a counterfeit your whole life. And Tyler and I had a really cool experience. We've done several men's retreats. We've done men's retreats up in Alaska. We got in a conversation this week where we haven't done a retreat in a couple of years, and both of us were saying, like, what are we doing? We need to put on a men's retreat where men can find their heart again and understand who they are again. And so we got talking about it. We started sharing ideas. It was really exciting. And our third partner wasn't in the conversation. And then like 10 minutes after me and Tyler had talked, and we haven't talked about this in months, in a long time, 10 minutes after, he texts us and he's like, guys, I've been thinking, like, we got to start building another retreat, like for men.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And it was just like God's saying something. And I think we're putting something in the works, and something's going to come down the pipeline. So So for you listeners, if you want to come have an experience, a real experience, we're not going to have a video game tournament at the retreat. We might, but
we might, but I doubt it.
Probably not. So stay tuned for more information about it. So,
yeah, great topic today. Good questions. I'm not sure we actually got to all of the questions that were inside the questions, but I think what we're getting at here is that the place to start here is for each individual in the situation to sit down with some personal integrity and just ask a few questions as to, number one, is this the life that you were designed for? Are the video games leading to the life that you were designed for, especially at the rate and duration that they're being used? And am I escaping from the life that I was designed for and missing out on what's actually right in front of me? And in this case, namely my wife and my children, maybe another adventure that I could go and pursue.
Yeah.
So does that sound about right, Brandon?
That's awesome. Yep. Thanks for listening, you guys. If this was helpful, please share it with somebody, and have a great week. We'll see you guys later.